impactful difference?
No, I think it's a variety of models. Some donors, the corporate level, start giving it in the beginning. They visit the villages, they see what we do and what kind of impact we create to the children that we bring up, and then they start kind of contributing more in terms of money, and also they participate in terms of various activities. Some of them could be budget relieving exercises, some of them could be in terms of helping children. Some people give scholarships to children and send them abroad. Quite a few of children are in fact settled abroad. But before I think getting into details, I think I must mention as to what SOS stands for. I think it's because 98% of the people that I meet do not know about this organization. SOS is an international organization based in Innsbruck, Austria, present in 133 countries and having about 520 children's villages. But in India, it started about 45 years ago, around the late 60s, but still it is not a very well-known organization. But it's a very, very, very unique model. We have major two programs. One is what you call a long-term family-based care in 33 villages in India from north, south, east, west, all around the country. Where when we say a village, it's not a rural village, it's within the city or outskirts of city, but a cluster of about 15 to 20 houses as a home. And in each home, there is a mother. And the mother looks after 8 to 10 children. It is like a normal middle-class family where we are giving a kind of belonging to children, because children, you can give them money, you can give them education, what they need is, what they look forward to is a belonging. So we say we give a loving home for every child. So this is what we call as a family-based care, which is the long-term, we take care of children from 0 to 25, newly born to about 25 years old children. And then we have what you call a family strengthening program. The family strengthening program, what we do is, around these clusters where there are families which are economically very weak and they have children who don't even go to school, they don't have even 2 square meals a day, we provide assistance to ensure that the children have at least 2 square meals a day. They're sent to schools and take care of their education and also take care of their health requirements, and simultaneously help the families with vocational training so that their income can be augmented, so that they don't get into a situation of abandoning the children. So the family-based care is a cure where the children are actually destitute at double offers. We give them a family, we give them a mother, we give them siblings who come up together, and they do treat their mothers who bring them up as real mothers. Almost they all call them mothers, the children are brothers and sisters. And now this family-based care is a cure for a problem, whereas the family strengthening program is a prevention program, preventing abandonment of children. In the first family-based care, we have about 6,500 children all over the country. And in the family strengthening program, we have 16,000 children. Totally, we take in about 22,000 family children. In addition to all that, we also run 9 schools, 4 high schools, 4 middle schools, and 1 school which is primary only for minority children in one place is totally free. In addition, we have a B.Ed college in Bhimtal, we have a nursing college in Faridabad, and the most unique thing that we do is a mother's training school in Faridabad. Each one of the mothers who are in the various homes of the 33 villages, about 500 mothers we have, these mothers are trained for 2 years, 3 months of academic training, where they are taught how to bring up a family, what are the emotional treatment, how to take care of the children, how to kind of not get into child abuse kind of situations, emotional management of children, because all these children come with trauma in their lives. So how do we ensure that these traumatic children are taken care of with the right kind of protection without necessarily making them feel that they are the ones who are destitute? In addition to that, they are sent for 1.5 years of training as aunts in the village. In each village, when we have 15-20 houses, 15-20 mothers, we have 5 aunts who support the family when the mother goes on leave, so she is not there. The mother is not a kind of just a salaried 9 to 5 job, it's a 24/7, she lives with the family, with the children. So the aunts support the families when they're not there. So after about 1.5 years of being an aunt, they decide if they are capable of taking the motherhood, we give them motherhood. So that's broadly the kind of program. So this mother's training is something very unique. Many people who visited our mother's training school said, my God, why not our own mothers have been trained in this manner? So they have to take care of children. So that's a broad aspect. Now coming to donors, the donors do come and visit the villages. Many of them, when they visit the village and see the children, see the way the children have got into their lives and become successful citizens of the country, they start saying, oh my God, if this is the impact you're creating, I think we want to support you. And there are people who come and support us in various ways.
It's quite a broad remit, that. I mean, you're doing a lot of different things. If you were a donor, if a donor approached you and said, listen, I wanted to focus on something quite specific within this. Is there scope to do that?
There are plenty of products that we have. If I have to say it's a product, because that's how we look at the marketing part. One is sponsoring a child. Okay. There are many people who want to sponsor a child, give a certain amount of money for taking care of the children. which means taking care of their family, the living, the education, and everything. Then the corporates want to give them, start giving a family home being sponsored, which is that where they take care of the entire family. Some companies come and say, we will give you scholarships for children. For example, one foundation, Diwan Foundation in Delhi, has sent children abroad for scholarship. 3 of our children are in London. This chap is Daniel Verma from Jaipur village. He's working in a software company. He has built a house there, a semi-detached house, a beautiful house he has got. I built his house last time when I was in London. Another boy is doing PhD in biotechnology in London because he went on a scholarship. So there are people who like that, who get successful. Recently, a gentleman became a doctor, an MBBS doctor out of this, and he was from nowhere. I mean, he was at the time of birth. I mean, he did not know that he was going to be a medical doctor. So there are kind of success stories people kind of contribute towards. And the other area where people get into is the family strengthening program. There are some organizations who come and say, we will adopt your SST program in one particular cluster and we'll entirely support the whole thing. There are some companies who come and say, we'll take care of the entire village. Like Achilles Foundation from Switzerland, Sweden, now the gentleman has supported the Tirupati village. The entire village, capital expenditure and the maintenance for about 20 years is taken care of by the people. So there are different models people come out with and say how they want to contribute, how they want to participate. But the pity is, and I think this is what I want to share with the people around here, is that in spite of all that we are doing, we depend on European donors for 65% of our requirement. Only 35% comes from the country. What I'm ashamed of is our neighbor, Pakistan, get 100% within the country and they don't depend on international funding at all. So Europeans ask the question, why can't your country, when they've got so many people who can afford to give, why can't they support you and why do we need money from Europe? And that's the kind of challenge that we are having in the context today. So we are looking for more and more support. Today we have about 30,000 individual donors who contribute for taking care of one children. There are companies we give also budget relieving. For example, Coca-Cola last year, 2 years ago, gave us complete water harvesting in all our villages, about 1.8 crores spent. Caterpillar has given us 1 crore per annum for three years consecutively for the family strengthening program. So there are companies which come and give a specific focused product, which could be a budget relieving product or it could be a general help towards the audience.
But proportionally, it's still majorly from foreign donors for you.
Yeah, 65% still comes from. This is again after increasing significantly over the last 3 years, thanks to people like India and others who have been able to support us. But still, I think it's not enough, and we need to do far more than what we're doing today.
Amit, when you were deciding to give, what were the concerns that you had? Was there anything in specific that you worried about or that you wanted to make sure you got right before you began?
So I'd like to give a slightly different perspective. You know, so many of you actually also run large companies, and so I'm here representing Genpact. And what our founding CEO Pramod actually sitting right there did was build a culture where all of our employees actually encouraged to give and contribute to society. So that's sort of a founding value. It's part of our employee value proposition over there. So what we do is we have about 60,000 people. In any given year, about 15,000 of them would contribute money from their salaries to the Give India payroll piece, right, into different charities. What we also have about 80,000 of them would one or more times actually work with different NGOs. So it works in a way in which you just set the employees free to do what they choose to do. And then we encourage that, we monitor it, we incentivize all of that. With Udayan Care, for instance, what happened is that, you know, they come, they made a presentation, we had a global meeting in Goa, and you know, Pramod had many of the NGOs actually come and put up their kiosks there, the employees got a sense of what it is. And then one employee decided to start working with them. And the benefit we actually get through the Give India piece is that, you know, the whole piece I just talked about the credibility, etc. So to that extent, that's sorted out. That's not something that individual employees will be able to figure out. And that's how the whole process started. And so in Calcutta, so we actually a large employer of people. So for us in Calcutta, employment is a big deal. So we work with them, and we've actually got one of their, the girls, Shalini girls, who now actually got a job in Genpact, and many have got jobs elsewhere. They run other schools. And in Delhi, it started independently. So guys in Cal didn't even know the people in Delhi. And the ones in Delhi started that way. And now they're actually the single biggest beneficiary from Genpact through individual employees deciding what they want to do.
And let me ask you, one thing about the payroll giving, which is interesting, is that it isn't just giving money from salaries, is it? Lots of people then go on to volunteer having done that, or to take new approaches in their private lives. Is that something you've noticed?
So one of the things we're encouraging now is actually for those who are giving money to also start working with the same NGOs that they're giving that money to. So it also ensures that there's some amount of the credibility, the trust, all of that sort of. So more and more, as we do that, we're also able to deliver far more impact. So we see employees doing that, and Now they're going into a different set of things altogether. So for example, with some NGOs, for example, West Six Sigma company, right? So some of our guys are actually now going and trying to help them improve processes. So it just becomes part of their life. That's our goal. We have a long way to go, but that's sort of where we're heading on this.
And if I can just ask Kiran, how's that experience been for you, working with Genpact and with this payroll giving scheme?
Could I take a minute? I have a captive audience. I would like them to know what Udayan Care does. You know, so don't want to miss this opportunity. Absolutely, I'll be very brief. In Udayan Care, what we do is we address this question, which all of you want to address, which all of you have this question. I want to do something. I have a heart that is sensitive. I have some money which I want to give. How do I do it? We want to address that in Udayan Care. So we have created avenues by which civil society members can join us, and they set up these small little homes which are really like a family home in a neighborhood, which is like any neighborhood that you live in, where 12 children live together like a family. And we call ourselves mentor parents, and we mentor parents like in a group. We mentor these children and we become like real parents. So we are all seasoned parents. We have given birth to our own children. We have raised them successfully. So we know what parenting is about. So we are bringing that kind of a parenting skill to our children. And we started with one home, and I still remember my husband was my worst critic. He told me, where will you find these kind of people who will become your volunteers and who will become your donors? It doesn't happen that way. Either people will volunteer or they will donate, but it has happened that way. And now we are 35 mentor parents mentoring these children in 13 homes and 2 aftercare facilities. So this is one of the biggest joy, and I think that's what Genpact employees really enjoy when they work with our children, because they find our children very smartly turned out, studying in schools like a Sanskriti or a DPS, and speaking very well, understanding their language, and they are able to relate to them. And then they do such beautiful activities. Environment Day, our children dress up as a tree, as a butterfly, and they do various activities with the employees. And just imagine the joy that the employees get out of it, to see a child who was on streets and who was no one's child is now a child who has an identity, an Udayan child. And they start getting more and more involved. Similarly, our Shalini program, again, it's a beautiful program, very, very different, where we invite people like you to become mentors to these underprivileged girls whom we select from government schools. Today, nobody sends children to a government school. Even my driver, with his meager salary, sends his 3 children to so-called English medium schools. So you can imagine, what kind of poorest of the poor children reach a government school. So we select these girls in government schools, and through a process of monetary help and mentoring, we take them through their graduation, post-graduation. Today, one of the girls is doing her PhD in Cambridge in physics. So, sky's the limit, opportunities are enough, and we need people like, companies like Genpact, and we have Make My Trip there, and many other companies, who really helped shape us, helped develop our program. So they
Hands. That?
My name is Pramod. I would just ask one question for the panel here. One of the critical things that we all worry about, I really believe the new generation of employees coming up in India are phenomenally inclined towards philanthropy, and as Amit said, they are ready to give and ready to give their efforts. And yet I find that there is insufficient attention being paid to making sure that NGOs are truly scalable, that they will reach, that they start small, but then they can expand very well and go to different lengths and really scale to make a really large impact. And I would love the panel's views on how we can all help make that far more effective, because it is easy to frankly write a check. I often think it's somewhat complacent to just write a check, as opposed to helping, an initiative which you can then expand from, affecting 5,000 to 10,000 to 50,000 to 100,000 people. So I would love to hear how you think about that and how you made an impact.
One of the major challenges is support on a sustainable basis.
Yes.
For example, when we start a village, we do a feasibility study first to ensure that will we have children who are deprived, abandoned or destitute over the next few years. There is a potential in that area. If there's a potential, then we said, okay, there's a feasibility, and we said, let's start a village. Now, if we have to start a village, it's not enough somebody just gives us a land or just gives us a building. We need to have some kind of a commitment that we will have a sustained program at least for a period of 5 to 10 years. Balance, then subsequently we can take care. So unless we get these two things sort of signed up, that we have someone who can support us, there are people who just give us land. In fact, I must tell you a very unique story. In Tirupati, the land was given by a government servant post his retirement. He had some 10 lakhs out of his provident fund money. He bought a land of 14 acres with 9 lakhs. 50% of the land he signed off for SOS. 50% he kept for a old age home. We're going to have side by side a old age home at the children's village. But then we could not start the village there because we didn't have the kind of resources. Now this Achilles Foundation from Sweden came in and said, listen, we will give you a complete construction cost. We will maintain the village for about 20 years. That is a sustainable model. I think in order to scale up, it's not good that we start some village and start some program or a family strengthening program and abandon it after 1 or 2 years, and that's actually disservice to society. We should ensure that we start something, we sustain it, we have a support which is coming in. If organizations can come back like this Achilles says, listen, we can support you for the next 5 to 6 years, doesn't matter, we can start off. And then later on we can then see how to kind of get the public relations support and hold. That's very critical for us.
Yeah, please.
Pramod, short answer to this is that when we started our learning centers, in the year 2002. Now let me just tell you 1 minute that Impact is an organization which was started by the IIM Ahmedabad batch of 78, and it was born at the campus. When they met for the 25th reunion, they said that now, God has given them so much and now they want to give back to the society. This is how Impact was born, and that is why the name is IIM PACT. And it is run by professionals, and this was started in 78. Now the batch of 88 has also joined us, and now the talk is going on with other batches, and we hope and pray that more and more batches join us so that the impact can be seen more at the pan-India level. Now to answer Pramod's question. When we started learning centers, for example, say 2 or 3 learning centers in a village, when we started in 2003, now that many girls have graduated from those learning centers and are continuing to study in grade 10, 11th and 12th, and the need that much in that village is not there. So what we've done is that we've brought together 2 centers into one. And if in one center the girls were less, we have handed it over to the community. The community is running those centers, the community is paying the salary of the teachers, and Impact is guiding them, counseling them, the entire training, etc. is all done by Impact. So the sustainability model is there as far as we are concerned. We never just close our books and say that, okay, we are going. The girls that have been with us, we remain connected with them throughout. And now that the girls are in grade 10th, 11th and 12th, we have gone back to our donors and we've told them, sir, you have supported them for so many years. Will you take their education forward? I have a list of 85 girls now, and I'm going to send it to our donors who have sponsored those centers. For example, when girls pass out from CX Partners, the learning centers, I will go back to him and tell them, these are your girls, please take care of their studies. So this is the sustainability model, and we continue to be in that village, and we continue to impact them, and we continue to remain connected with the community as well as the girls. So this
one of the things I think Pramod you said was that it's easy to write a check. Believe me, it really is. I've seen several initiatives, excellent initiatives not being funded. And like I said, the need of this country is for unlimited funds. So one of the things I think we need to do much more in cooperation, for example, with Impact, and one reason why we chose 10 learning centers, to fund 10 learning centers in Mewat, in Haryana, because it's 1.5 hours away from Delhi, is that when we have our annual investor conference, where all these pension funds and fund funds come in, we thought we will take them to some of these centers and then have them probably, or at least encourage them to fund these centers or more centers. So spread the news about Impact and what they're doing, so that we can get more funding from different sets of donors. Similarly, our investee companies, I think we need to work with them to tell them about Impact and then rope them in as well. So I think somebody did talk about network effects earlier, probably when Anu and Amit were discussing this. And that, I think, is key. I see my role, or CX's role, much more in spreading what Impact is doing to people who can donate, rather than going in there and saying, I can make a contribution by working with Impact, because I really have no idea, and I won't be as effective, or my time won't be as effective as simply organizing more funds for Impact. So that's the way we view our role as CX partners.
Karen, just want to add something.
I just want to add that it's a very good question about sustainability, because somebody told me once that why do you want to dig a well every time you want to drink water? It's like, because these kind of programs where you're looking after children, you are digging a well every time you need money. So you need, sustained donors who are going to be with you. And how do you do that? By doing your job well, by turning out children who are smart. The children also, coming back and they are becoming donors. So many of our Shalini girls, with their first paycheck, it brings tears in your eyes. They come to you, here is my first paycheck and I want to become a donor, so that more girls can study. So that's the model, one can adopt, and that's what we are doing in Udayan Care, that we have brought this line in our vision statement, giving back to society. So no beneficiary should remain a passive recipient. We have to encourage them to start giving. And all our children, if you look at Swati, she donated 2 lakhs, a young girl, 22-year-old, and she earned her money, and 22 lakhs, 2 lakhs she gave to the organization. Another donor came to know of it. They, funded another 2 lakhs, and now there is a corpus of 4 lakhs in Swasti Udayan's name, which is sustaining 4 children for their education in perpetuity. So we have to develop these kind of models. Now, another thing that I would like to suggest, and many corporates are doing it, like even with GenPact, our association has grown. It started with a small association. Now more and more things are coming up, and they are also, we are considering more capacity building of the organization, bringing in Six Sigma training, and developing a kind of an IT backbone, for the organization, and developing better HR processes. You see, in NGOs, normally we are good Samaritans with a beating, sensitive heart. We want to do something, but we also need expertise, and that's where the corporates can really come in and help us, do it in a better way.
I wanted to do more questions, but I think we have time.
I think we should close, because
If you can always catch these guys afterwards, if anyone has any particular things to
Thank
ask.
you.
But thanks very much to everyone on the panel.
I want to thank the panel members. It was indeed inspiring to hear about the causes adopted by each of you and the commitment that has been provided. And may I request all of you to go back to your own tables. I hope you found this evening enriching experience, and would like to request each of you to take a few minutes of your time to kindly fill the feedback form, which is on your tables and your folders, and leave it at the table. This would help us to improve and bring to you the right set of events and forums. At this juncture, I'll also like to request Deepa to come and deliver the vote of thanks.
I promise you all that I'll just take 2 minutes of your time, and then there's dinner waiting for all of you. I have this pleasant job of thanking everyone today who's made this evening a success. Let me first begin by thanking our partners, Mint, who's our media partner, and the Oberoi Group for extending the hospitality to us. I think we also owe a great sense of gratitude to our eminent speakers today, who wholeheartedly gave their support to us this evening, and it was truly inspiring and enriching to hear all your experiences, so thank you, respected speakers. And last but not least, I would like to make a special mention to our 3 champions who made Delhi possible for us to launch the Delhi First Givers Club chapter. Mr. Deep Kalra, Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani and Mr. Ashish Dhawan, who almost in a visionary zeal made this possible. So thank you for the confidence that you bestowed upon us to make this launch possible. And finally, this evening could not have been possible without the support of my team at Give India. So thank you everyone, thanks. And it was a pleasure having you all here. Thank you for signing up, and I hope to engage with each and every one of you in the months to come. So that's it, and please do join us for dinner and interact. The speakers, the opportunity that you didn't get here to ask questions, you have your time there with the speakers and the other members of the group. Thank you very much.
Folks, I have one last request from the speakers. Give India needs a group photograph of their speakers. If they can come on the stage. I'm so sorry this got left out earlier. If I can just request all the speakers, Amit, Sukumar, Mrs. Aga, please for 2 seconds we'll just take a quick picture.
Why this discrimination against mid-group employees? Even I'm moved out of